Ever schemed of spending a longer break in Italy? Many of us have only limited vacation time, but we would love to stay a little bit longer than that 2 weeks or even 3 weeks. Join us as we chat with adventurous empty nesters, Kristen and Jason, who share their innovative approach to a working vacation in Italy, offering tips and making the most of extended stays, navigating time zones, and finding that perfect balance between exploration and productivity amidst the beauty of wonderful Italia.
Ciao a tutti and benvenuti to Untold Italy, the travel podcast where you go to the towns and villages, mountains and lakes, hills and coastlines of Bella Italia. Each week your host, Katy Clarke, takes you on a journey in search of magical landscapes, history, culture, wine, gelato, and of course, a whole lot of pasta. If you're dreaming of Italy and planning future adventures there, you've come to the right place.
Do you dream of speaking Italian but feel stuck? I hear you. Whether you want to connect with your Italian heritage, a partner, or you want to live in Italy, finding the right tools to match your learning style is important. My friend Michelle from Intrepid Italian offers a practical approach to learning Italian with her unique 80-20 method, teaching you only what you need to know. As an adult learner herself with Italian heritage, she really knows how to bridge the gap between English and Italian. As Angela from Australia said, I put my inability to learn down to my senior stage of life, but with Intrepid Italian, it seems to just fit. To find out how Intrepid Italian can help you learn Italian and to claim an exclusive $20 coupon code that you can use on any of Michelle's online courses from beginner to intermediate, visit untolditaly.com/Italian or visit the link in the show notes. As a bonus, you'll also get a downloadable travel phrase guide absolutely free. So visit untolditaly.com/Italian to accelerate your Italian. Buongiorno, friends. Have you had your espresso today? I've had 2, which is in fact my limit. Otherwise, I'm bouncing off the walls at midnight. Unless I'm in Italy, of course, and in that case, the espressos are limitless. I've had a lot of lovely messages lately from people missing Italy, and when Kristen and Jason, our guests today, reached out with their unique way to travel in Italy, I thought getting them on the show may spark some ideas for you. Working vacations and the digital nomad lifestyle is not a new concept, and in fact, several members of the Untold Italy team work that way. But the way that it's positioned is that it's something that's more attainable for, let's just say, a younger demographic than maybe myself, who's definitely a Gen X, and for those of us with, say, full-time jobs and carrying responsibilities. In those cases, hitting the road for more than a couple of weeks can seem like an impossible dream, but Kristen and Jason found a way to make their dream of exploring Italy work for them, and they're here today to share that with you. Andiamo, let's hear all about it. Benvenuti, Kristen and Jason. Welcome onto the Untold Italy podcast.
Thanks for having us here.
Thank you. We're excited.
It's great to have you here. I just love hearing our listeners' journeys in Italy, and you just have a really unique way of travelling there that I can't wait for everyone to hear about. But before we get started on that, let's hear from you, where you're from and how did you fall in love with Italy?
Well, we're empty nesters. We've got 3 grown children who've flown the coop. And after 20 years of the hustle and bustle of suburban Washington, D.C., we moved to Charlottesville, Virginia. We traveled several times with the kids to Italy. It always was around school vacation time, as you might imagine, which lends itself to being in the ungodly heat of Italy. So we wanted to try a different type of vacation. It was really Chris's vision on what we wanted to try.
So one of the things we decided to do when COVID took both our jobs and made them either full-time remote for me or part-time remote for Jace, that enough of the touring with the family vacation. We'd planned big trips for ourselves for our anniversary. We brought our 3 kids when they were younger. We took 11 people on a 50th anniversary trip for my parents. But that's one and done. That's a summer vacation. That's crowds in Italy. That's heat. And when we found ourselves kind of empty nesters, I looked at Jace one day and I said, in the middle of September, October, we could go to Italy. And he looked at me like, are you crazy? It's the fall. I'm like, I know. So that was how this whole thing started.
Oh, that's amazing. But what was it about Italy that really made you like keep going back? It sounds like you've been doing that for a while.
I'll be honest, there's a recent meme making the rounds on social media about like guys think about all day the Roman Empire. I kind of did for a while, and I was just drawn to the magic of the place and the history. And we loved the history of it, the buildings, the beauty. It's also Italy, frankly, like it's a relatively safe, comfortable, not safe as in secure. It is safe and secure, but like it's a comfortable place for Americans to go. It's not too strange. The language isn't too far. And certainly in the big locations, everybody in the services industry speaks English. So in Rome, it's not difficult to navigate and get around. So we really just enjoyed it. And we loved our first trip. We crammed in, like many people do, Rome and Venice. We're going to cram it into a short amount of time. The next one, we're going to do Rome again and cram in Florence and do Venice again. And we wanted to go beyond that kind of travel notion.
I think when you are looking at trips, you go with your family and then you think, oh, when we retire, we're going to do all these great trips. Well, we're not there. We're not quite ready to retire. But what we came up with was a way to take our love of travel and our need to continue working and do both at the same time.
Yeah, amazing. Because, with Italy, doesn't seem like there's enough time to explore. And you do realize that when you've been there a few times, you need to sort of have that extended period to really make the most of it, don't you? And I think, it might seem out of reach for a lot of people to do that. And I think what you've done is a really creative and unique way to have that extended travel experience that a lot of us are craving. So tell us a little bit more about it. So how do you actually go about planning your trips and making the most of your time that you have in Italy?
Well, kind of start with, you said it's a little out of reach for people. I have to say, some of the way we do this is so cost effective that my parents joke that what they spend for a week at the beach, we spend for 3 weeks in Italy. So this can be done in a fairly cost effective way. We did a few test runs and we kind of really talked about what was important to us. The concept is built around time zones. When you look at it, Italy is usually 6 hours ahead of the U.S. East Coast. So 8 a.m. here in Virginia is 2 p.m. in Italy. So what we realized is we could play in the morning, spend all morning touring and doing all this fun stuff, have an amazing Italian lunch, and still be back at our remote desks in an Airbnb, ready to go at 2 p.m. and work through the evening. And that was the first real cool thing we realized, but we did have to test it out. We didn't do this accidentally. We did a trial run in Ottawa, Canada, to see if we could work remotely together. Figured out a few things there as we were visiting our daughter, but we realized, I bet this would work.
Yeah, it may not work as well for Australia. I'm not as quick on the math of the time zone difference, but honestly, it works really well for East Coast United States. It does make for long days because we get up very early. We're up at 6 or 7. We have an Italian colazione with a cappuccino and a cornetto or two. And then we're off traveling. We'll have a nice lunch. Sometimes we can take our time at lunch if we plan it correctly. And then we're at work for our normal 8 hours, 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. Italy time. So it makes for a long total day, but I'm not crying about getting to go tour in this town or that town or possibly have a glass of wine at lunch before the workday starts.
Well, and I'll be honest, American lunchtime in Italy, we go out, we get a nice gelato, and we, sometimes when the working day's over, there's a chance for us to go out for a late dinner. Yeah. Sometimes when the working day's over, we look at each other, we're like, yeah, we're done. We're done. Get some gelato, maybe a glass of wine, and then it's straight to bed because we know we're going to get to start again in the morning.
Amazing. And I can imagine on your meetings, everyone else is there clutching their coffee, just, getting warmed up for the day. And you're like, hey, everyone.
We're wide awake.
Yeah. It's actually interesting. The first time we did it, I didn't brag and talk a lot. I mean, I had permission from my office to do it, but I didn't tell a lot of people what I was doing. Nobody had any idea. There's no reasonable expectation. I wanted to kind of take a meeting from in front of the Coliseum for fun, but I didn't actually do that. And nobody really know the difference. I mean, everybody's used to Zoom. You put on some different background. And again, it's not hiding it, but it's, being smartly discreet and not showing off.
Yeah, sure. I think this is the beauty of, the technology. This is when technology is really working for us, I think, and just the ability to do that is just fantastic. Oh, I love it. Now, I guess finding a place to stay, because you stay put in like one place or a couple of places for each of your trips, right? So how do you find those longer term rentals? Because I think that that's really what gets a lot of people stuck, is they're trying to find a rental that's going to take, maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks.
Actually, what we've done so far is we haven't stayed in one place more than a week.
Mm-hmm.
We tend to pick a region and focus on 1 week there. And then the weekends are great times for us to move cities and spend longer times. But we have found, and I know a lot of times on the podcast, you talk about the benefit of hotels. For what we're doing, Airbnbs really do work far better. They're a little more cost effective. They offer us a kitchen. They offer us laundry, which when you're staying for a while, it's nice to know where you're going to clean your clothes. And we're much more able to get the most important thing we realized. We got to have 2 separate working areas. We're both on Zoom calls. He loves me dearly, but the first time we tried this in Canada, we were right on top of each other, and I thought he was going to have my head by the time I was done with my meetings, because I'm a little animated, I'm loud, and it was driving him crazy. So we do need 2 separate work areas. So once we've identified a place, then it does take a lot of looking in advance, a lot of looking at pictures and recognizing, am I looking at 2 different bedrooms? Am I looking at the same room from a different perspective? In some cases, what furniture do I see in this place that I could maybe reposition in the bedroom so that Jason can have the living area, I can have the bedroom.
This is why the practice run in Ottawa worked really well, because you couldn't really tell from the pictures the size and where we'd be. There were 2 separate areas for us to sit, but essentially they were in the same room. And so we learned that just doesn't work for 2 people who are online and doing Zoom calls all day. So you look more carefully and say, okay, this is a bedroom that has a desk. Chris can sit in the kitchen. You don't even have to close the door all the time, but they're separate enough spaces that they work.
Yeah, I can imagine. My husband's voice is very loud, and I would just be throwing things at him probably. But that's really good to know, yeah. And I think in the smaller cities as well, the Airbnb situation is it's a lot easier. And if you're staying a longer time, it does make more sense, to have a kitchen, because you can't be eating, well, you can be eating out. But I mean, yeah, I totally understand that. I just think if you're coming for just 2 or 3 days, it's sometimes easier to get a hotel.
That's another thing we've learned. Working vacation. So we do work, but the timing of how we do this is almost more critical. We really have I do when I do all the planning. Jace does all the driving. Once we're there, I do all the planning getting us there. But I have a hard, fast rule that we work about 1/3 of the time we're out of the country.
Yeah.
So that just requires looking at long weekends. It requires looking at school vacations, because a lot of the times offices are much quieter during school vacations, and it's an easy time to take off, even if you're an empty nester. It requires looking at flights that'll work with our work schedule. We know we have to get there and have a couple of days to get acclimated, because we're not ready to jump into it right away. We love it if we can find a week where we take a personal day or we take time off on a Wednesday or a Thursday. We don't like to work more than 2 days in a row. Ideally, a work week is 4 days and you've taken off the Wednesday. That makes such a difference. And the other part is that I strongly believe in the very last few days of a trip, be it a week, be it 4 or 5 days, those are off. Those are just vacation. So when you're done with your final work day, you get to say, yes, we got 5 days of only vacation now coming. And for those days, we often do hit agriturismos or B&Bs or hotels.
Oh, beautiful. Now, I think everyone wants to know, where have you had these amazing experiences where you've managed to work? Because, I mean, I know you've given me a little heads up, and I think that you've made some excellent choices. How about you? Tell us about some of your favorites.
So you can see the progression of as we get more and more courageous. Like our first trips are like typical tourists. Do everything you can with your family and running around, and it's crazy and it's hot. We absolutely loved Lucca in Tuscany. And so when we tried this out after our big Ottawa test run, we found a place inside the walls, La Mura of Lucca, and it was a perfect town. Enough restaurants were open late that we could go grab dinner. They got plenty of gelato, so we could run in the middle of the day. And it's so well located. We did rent a car. We parked outside the walls. And like we could take, it was a half-day trip, and we were back in time to work to go see the Leaning Tower of Pisa. We were there before the tourists. We had no wait to go up the tower. As we walked back, all the buses had arrived. We were weaving our way through all the tourists to get back to our car. And we were back, and we picked up lunch, and I think we ate in our Airbnb. So some of the trick is a location where there's relatively easy access to other half-day trips.
Yeah.
And Lucca was like perfect.
It's right there in the middle of Tuscany.
And Lucca is great to do a half day even within the walls itself, like renting the bikes and riding around and exploring the town itself was an easy half day for us.
Yeah, I mean, Lucca is just, honestly, it's the best, isn't it? I think my husband and I spent like 1 or 2 hours just looking at real estate boards.
We've done that many times. Yeah. Every single trip, that's part of the process.
Yeah.
Another thing we've discovered that is a different kind of working environment. Twice we've done the big cities. First trip we did Rome, and we'd been to Rome multiple times, but this time we stayed much further out towards the walls. We got a little more space that way. We were in more of a workaday neighborhood, I would say. And we also did the same thing in Bologna, kind of in the university area. So if you don't want to deal with the car, which is a whole different game, the big cities, Rome, Bologna, Florence, they often have enough activity that you can have an easy half day where the transportation is so much easier and still get back to someplace closer to the outskirts. We loved Rome. We have been to Rome so many times, and we had adventures on our working week in Rome that we never would have had if it had been a focused family vacation. Bologna was an awesome recent trip because the train station is there, and the train station got us to Parma, got us to Padua, got us to Verona. So easy to get around in those cities as well. So there's two different ways we've looked at it. The small towns, more in the countryside, but you can also do this in the bigger cities. The bigger cities have the benefit of better internet too sometimes.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that actually, because it can get a little bit dicey there. I know sometimes when I'm recording the podcast with people that are in the country, it can be a little bit flaky. So, yeah, I can imagine getting the really good internet is a priority too.
Yeah, that's part of the art and science of using Airbnb and Booking.com is see what they say about the Wi-Fi. Chris usually finds the places, and then I do some backup, more detailed research. Is there any reference to Wi-Fi in the comments? Because sometimes people will say, great Wi-Fi. Okay, good start. Once in a while, you'll see terrible Wi-Fi. All right, we're not even going to bother. And then we've also started just simply mailing the owner and asking them, do you have a Wi-Fi test? And I think all of them have provided something or have said like, no, we've had people that have worked here and it's fine. You are taking a chance because you don't know for sure until you get there. So one of the first things we do when we arrive at the Airbnb is we open up our laptops, we make sure we can log on, we do a little test run to make sure what kind of service we have. In one place, the internet was very spotty, and the owner immediately said, you know what, I can solve this. I'll go reset the router. It was in a different apartment she rented, and she took care of us. In Lucca, the first day, internet was real spotty for me, but not for Chris. So I went out and bought a long Ethernet cord so I could plug in directly. And now we carry that around with us as a backup plan. My backup that I haven't needed to use, thankfully, yet is scouting out locations where they have shared workspaces in the towns. So we stayed in Ostuni. The Wi-Fi was fine, but I knew in the absolute worst case, I would have driven to Bari, and they had like a very inexpensive shared workspace or like an internet cafe. That's my extreme backup plan if things really, but we've never needed it. And we've been in small towns like Spello, been totally fine. Rome was obviously fine, no internet problems there. So it just takes a little bit of due diligence and then test so you're ahead of the game when you get there.
Yeah. I love how organised you are. And I think it's great that the internet's working because I've been doing this big project which has required me to be looking at Italian websites like basically religiously for 8 hours a day. And I have found that 70% of them don't work. Oh, it's been really frustrating. So I find it super interesting that they do have that connectivity, but the online infrastructure isn't so great over there. Like they don't care. Like part of me finds that super frustrating, but the other part of me says, you do you. That's fantastic. We don't all need to be online 24/7. But
it also sometimes matters where you're sitting. In Spello, I was in the kitchen and I had no problem. Jace was on the other side of a very thick brick stone wall, and he was a mess, and he ended up having just come and kind of be next to me if he wasn't talking, and then it was great. So again, we've moved locations even in these tiny apartments sometimes.
And so you were mentioning about Rome that you had some really cool adventures. What was the adventures you have in Rome? Because I do like to go exploring, and I always think, I wish I had more time here.
Well, I mean, every time we go, we love just walking in the centro, in the center of town, and being immersed by Colosseum and the Forum. One little secret place, we'd never in all our years up until recent one of these working trips have been up to the Vittorio Emanuele monument right next to the Forum. And we're like, fine, let's just go up. It's something we haven't done. We had seen most of the sites, and we found ourselves in their cafe. It's free entry into the cafe. You have to pay for food, but it's on a portico, a balcony, and overlooks the road that leads right to the Colosseum. And it is the most gorgeous spot to just sit. You get a little breeze, and you overlook the historic right across from the Trajan's Forum. It's a pretty special spot that we just came across. And now it's like every time we go to Rome, when we were there last time, we're going up and we're having a coffee up there just to relive that moment.
It's not crowded usually. It's an easy way. There's no line.
Yeah.
The other thing we've done for our full days in Rome, we love the Appian Way. Yeah. We actually rented bikes and went out on the Appian Way and did some way out of Rome touring. Took the bus to get out there. But we took a full day to do that. That was our Wednesday, we have the day off activity. So we've done different neighborhoods we'd never seen before. St. Peter's is always fun. I don't care how many times you visit. Yeah. We'll climb to the cupola. We met great people in line. We've had some great experiences that way.
How about that Appian Way? I don't know what I was expecting maybe the cobblestones would be like in the town. They're huge, aren't they, those cobblestones?
Yeah, I'm not sure I recommend the biking of the Appian Way if you want. There's a backstory to that. Definitely don't lock your bikes up and go to lunch, no matter what they say about the lock they give you.
Oh, no.
The Appian Way, it's special, and the Aqueduct Park, if you can get there. Riding a bike, the cobblestones are gigantic. It's like impossible to ride a bike. I'm like, what are we doing here? This is impossible to do. But it is a very unique spot, and would definitely recommend. That was one of our full days.
It's so cool, isn't it? Like you can go on the side of those cobblestones though, but it is very hard on your bottom, isn't it? Like I can't stress that enough. We went back there just in December, and we went to one of the churches there, which is one of the original Christian churches in Rome, and it was absolutely phenomenal. Like I can't even count the number of times I've been to Rome now, and there's always something. And with our friend Nazim, we went out to the Garbatella neighbourhood and went to this amazing restaurant, and Rome is just the best. And I sometimes get stuck in a rut going back to my favourite haunts, but like I'm always trying to force myself to go somewhere different. So this time I'm going to go deep into Prati neighbourhood next time. So I don't know if you've been around that area, but
no.
There's always so much just explored just in that historic centre anyway.
That's actually a good example of what we're doing with Italy writ large. You've been to Rome so much. You love going to your same places, but it also, because you know you'll be back and you've been there, you sort of gives yourself permission to explore the corners that aren't on the tourist track. And that's exactly what we've started doing with Italy, is like, we can still do Rome, or we'll go for one day, or we'll hit it on the next trip. Let's try Umbria this time. Hadn't really been on our radar. I think it really got on our radar from listening to your show. But it's like, because you've done it enough and you know you're going to be back, it's an easy enough experience. Let's try this little corner that we wouldn't normally go to.
Oh, look, Umbria is just so amazing. And I actually just recorded a podcast a couple of days ago, another place, which I'm going to put on your radar too, which is called Tuscia, which is on the border with Umbria and Tuscany, and it's actually in Lazio. So you drive up there, the motorway, everyone just does this, me included, just drives straight through this area, and it's just, I was talking to Eleanor, who's one of the guides there, and I was like, what is going on? Why haven't I not stopped here, you know? So again, like just even 2 hours outside of Rome, you can get there very easily.
One of our working weeks this fall was in Spello in Umbria, which is 10 minutes from Assisi. And that was my find when we couldn't settle on the right apartment in Assisi. So I said, what about Spello? I cannot recommend Spello enough. It is a sleepy little gorgeous village, comes alive once a year with their flower festival in May. But we literally walked to the same cafe every morning down more or less empty streets. It was just locals in this October week we were there. And you got in the train, you got in the car, and 10 minutes away was Assisi, 15 minutes away. It was just so well located. And you're right, Umbria, you're going to face so much less crowds than you would in Tuscany.
And it's just as beautiful, actually, if not more. And I feel like it's got that more local character, that you have the people that are, you know, going about their daily business, which I find so interesting because it is very different to our lives at home. And, you know, they have their routine, and sometimes, like, I'm someone who likes to be constantly stimulated or something, like doing something different, but they just, no, they don't mind. They do the same thing every day and they're happy. And I really envy that, actually, because I wish I was kind of like that in a way. But it's so lovely to see that culture in action too.
Yeah, and that's part of also the magic of staying a week in a place, a small town like that, is obviously we're not living there like the people who actually live there full time, but you do get a taste of it because it is a quieter town. By the nature of our work schedule, we're eating later like they do there. And it's more enjoyable. We'll go grocery shopping. Like normal tourism, you're not going grocery shopping, you're eating out most of the time. So it's fun to explore and experiment with a slower type of travel.
Yeah, definitely. And now tell us about driving, because I know you do driving. And I think we have a similar plan. I do the planning and the navigating, and my husband drives. But I have driven a few times. I know where I will never drive again. And it's I have said this many times, do not drive in Liguria. Like, seriously, it's hair raising. But I have driven in Puglia, and I know you have too.
We drove down to Puglia. We drove actually from Spello to Puglia, to Ostuni. So lovely. And it's at one point on that drive, I said, Jay, stop looking at the road and look at the GPS. All you could see on the entire GPS was olive trees. Yeah. I mean, all we could see out the window, but the GPS, that wider view, it's just one giant olive tree with 3 roads going through it. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And you have to admit, nothing's better than an Italian rest stop. Let me tell you, you can get some amazing lunches.
The Auto Grill?
The Auto Grill.
I mean, it's the best.
It's the best.
It is different, but not entirely different. Every time we go, it takes me about 30 minutes to shift into Italian driving Jason mode. You do have to be, I don't say aggressive, but you need to be more assertive. It's okay to put the pedal to the metal a little bit and realize the pattern on the 2-lane highways. People are much more accustomed. You sit in the right lane and let other people go on the left. In our larger highways in the US, people are just do whatever they want in whatever lane. The signs are mostly the same, but not exactly the same. There's signs that have red crosses through them that don't necessarily mean don't go there. So you are figuring it out as you go. And it helps, like, we've gotten into a good routine to have a good navigator that's like, I don't think that's the left turn we're supposed to make. Keep going, keep going, keep going. And also be okay with, like, you're going to make wrong turns. It's not that big a deal. You'll extricate yourself from the situation. 95% of the time, we're just turning around and we're winding our way back. A couple interesting stories. We did get lost very quickly the first day we were in Spello. We ended up on the middle of Mount Sabazio, not at all where we were intending to go. In fact, there was one scary road, a lot of rocks, and we were not in a very powerful rental car. Chris got out and made sure that I could drive out with as minimal amount of weight as possible. And eventually we were off the mountain and the GPS got us back home. Like, it wasn't that big of a deal, and it's a good story that we have. The ZTLs in towns are more scary. We're both very cognizant of during normal daylight hours, you can't drive into the true hearts of the towns, whichever town that you're in. I think we've avoided them all except for Ostuni. I was hyper focused on getting to our Airbnb, which was in town. And Chris is like, are you sure this isn't going to take us through the ZTL? I'm like, why would the ZPS lead us through the ZTL? But sure enough, before I knew it, we're surrounded by tourists. I was in a piazza. Clearly, I was driving where I wasn't supposed to be. And I'm like, we got no choice but to keep going and drive ourselves out of it.
In about 6 months, that ticket's going to appear
sure
here in the U.S.
Yeah.
And we'll just look at each other and say, opportunity cost.
Yeah.
It's a story. We'll pay our 200 euros and we'll move on with our life.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny to look back on, isn't it? Like, I know at the time it's so stressful and there's people everywhere and you're like, but then you go, oh my God. Like, that was actually super funny.
More than once we've stopped. I've gotten out. I've looked around. I've sometimes run up to the corner to see if we should keep going or turn around. And I've just, okay, back it up, babe, back it up.
Yeah.
The other thing that he doesn't tell you is one thing that really helps is Jason is a very competent stick shift driver. Yeah. I think it's a lot more intimidating for Americans who aren't used to automatics to realize you got to drive a stick pretty much in Europe.
Yeah, I think it does help. It gives you more options and, you know, especially if you're going up hills and stuff, like you're not getting an SUV type car that's got 4-wheel drive. So you really do need to have a bit of that skills. It's ideal. And, you know, the other thing we've noticed actually in our Facebook group is that people have been given electric cars, which is fine, but you need to make sure you've got somewhere to charge it. And not everywhere has that.
That was our problem in Rome this year, and that was all on me. You have to really read the reservation page on the websites carefully because when we got to Rome, we were jet lagged, we were tired, and this woman knew we were taking this car to the south, and she's like, do you know you rented an electric car? So we literally freaked out, and she gave us the very last car in the lot. I wouldn't recommend an Evo in Europe. At some point, Mason and I just closed our eyes and prayed we were going to get up a hill. But we made it. But again, you're right. There aren't a lot of charging places, especially as you go further south.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think up around Bologna and in Emilia-Romagna and Tuscany, I think it's fine for electric vehicles. But, yeah, down south I wouldn't risk it. No way.
No, we didn't want to experiment with that and be stuck somewhere without. Yeah.
There's only so many exciting stories you can take in one trip.
Exactly.
So now, where are you going to go next? Because you've done some beautiful places, and you know, I think you're building your confidence, as you say. And Jason, I know you speak Italian now. Is that right?
I speak a little bit,
Yeah.
For the last year and a half, I've worked with my Italian professoressa. She teaches English. She's based in Bologna. On our last trip, she and her husband drove down to
we were in
San Gimignano and took us to a winery there. And it was the most memorable moment of the trip to meet her in person after spending 9 months with her at the time. And she was so warm and outgoing. And that was a lot of fun. So she and her husband actually are going to meet us for a couple days in Torino. We've never been northwest, so that'll be the first time. I would like to see some mountains. Turin has some wonderful museums. So that'll be our base probably for the first week. We just listened to your podcast on Vicenza. And after consulting with my my Italian tutor, she confirmed that's probably also a good base for our second week because there's lots of places to access for our half-day trips, and then maybe we'll do a vacation weekend in Venice.
Oh, that sounds amazing! Yeah, and when will you be there? Will you be there in October and November?
Right now, we're aiming to go in October, November. We've been trying to go twice a year. We gave this spring a break. We stayed home for the birth of our first grandson. So we have a little extra time to plan the fall trip. But again, We'll go north, we think, in the fall, and hopefully next spring we're heading back to Umbria. We had a great week in Sicily a couple years ago as a full vacation week, and we're thinking maybe Palermo might be a working place. Palermo was amazing. So we're working on it. It's nice to dream. It's also nice to not feel the pressure because you know what? If we don't get to it this year, the way this is working, we'll be able to try it next year.
Isn't it so amazing how different, say, Sicily is to Umbria? Like, it's just like a different country.
Oh, Sicily's amazing. We had the greatest week there, and we were free. We were not working. That wasn't a work week. It was a full vacation week. But yeah, we loved Palermo. We were in Palermo for Holy Week at Easter, and that, I got to tell you, Holy Thursday and Good Friday in Palermo is something you've got to see to believe. It was amazing.
Yeah, totally accidental, and we didn't know what to expect, and all of a sudden we're following a procession down the street with bands, and it was really an amazing thing to witness.
Yeah, I've also spent a Good Friday in Sicily, and people don't understand. Here in Australia, we have Good Friday as a public holiday. So, and basically everyone maybe goes to the beach or goes camping or something. But there, it is a community effort, isn't it? And they're reliving traditions that they've done for hundreds of years, even down to the food, the way they're dressed, everything.
The decorating of the churches. It was amazing.
Yeah.
So that's on our list again.
Yeah.
So
I've got a good place for you. I think next time in Sicily, because, you know, sometimes you have to branch out a bit, but if you go down to Noto, I reckon round there.
Okay, that's on our list, yeah.
Or even Ortigia, which you may know is one of my favourite places.
That was an amazing day. I would love to go back there too, yeah.
I don't know, it's something, when you look at it on paper, it's kind of like, yeah, but I don't know, it's a feeling there, for me anyway, so... Oh, so exciting. I just love that you've got this plan and you're so flexible. Is anyone asking if they can come with you at this point? Any of your friends?
You know what? That's one of the things about this trip. There are family vacations and we still take them with our family, but these working vacations, we find that they are much easier to do with just the two of us. I mean, I can't say enough. We are working. We are actually sticking to our workday schedule. And there might be a little stress as we get to 1:30. It was, oh God, we got to get back. Let's go. Let's not be late. We both have to log in. So these kind of trips are kind of our holding off retirement trips. We are kicking around having people meet us. But as far as the working part, that works really well with two of us. Yeah. So I know we both have parents who would like to join us at some point. So maybe we'll figure out a way to bring the retirees in with us one of these days.
Yeah. I think it's amazing what you're doing, because when people think about retirement, they're thinking, you know, then they'll be taking these really long trips. But what we were talking just before we came on air is that you can't actually travel for that long. When you're in Europe, you think that you can, but they have a visa for 90 days. So I have a cousin who's, you know, heading into the retirement age, and he said to me, oh, I want to travel for 6 months. And I said, oh, buddy, you can't, because, you know, you can only stay for 3 months and then you've got to get out, you know, and then you have to stay out for another 90 days before you go back in. So this way that you're doing it is such a great transition to getting to that point, and you get to see so much and experience so much. I love it. It's great.
Yeah, I've told many people that it's really, for me, extended my desire to want to retire early. I don't feel that need as strongly because this gives me more time to explore different things, and particularly now learning the language, just to feel more of the event while we're being there and the travel. 5 years ago, I was much more anxious to try and retire so we could travel more. But this has really kind of pushed it out, doing this kind of hybrid travel where we get enough days off, we do our work, we don't blow up all the rest of our vacation days. It's a good hybrid.
Well, and you know what? We're also at that stage of life where a lot of people enter in their 50s and early 60s where there are grandbabies coming on. There are children spread out in different places. There are aging parents. And you know what? Being out of the country for extended period of time isn't always practical. But we can do 2, 3, even maybe 4 weeks twice a year if we're lucky. So
I love how you've just put so much thought into it as well, and you've really, you know, zoned in on how it's going to work for you. And I think anything's possible, but I do have a message out there for anyone who's an employer, is that, like, look at these people, look how happy they are. I'm sure they're really productive and great employees in their workplace. And I have a team that's all over the world and I'm like, just get the work done. Our work isn't time sensitive, so we don't have to have specific meetings all the time. But yeah, like, look at this. It's such a brilliant experience. And, you know, you're going to be talking about this forever and, you know, sharing these moments together. You know, maybe one day when you can't travel, you'll have all these memories of meeting your Italian teacher and catching up.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for sharing these unique experiences with everyone. And I'm really so thrilled that you reached out because it is such a great way of looking at things. And I think if you don't hear about those different ways of traveling, then you might not realize what's possible for yourself. So thank you so much, Kristen and Jason. It's been lovely chatting with you today.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
So how great is that plan? I love how Kristen and Jason have found a way to make their dreams of travelling in Italy become a reality. With a bit of persistence, actually quite a lot, and I have to say much more excellent planning, they've created something truly wonderful that works wonders for them. If you have a trip you'd like to share or a different way of travelling in Italy, please reach out to us at ciao@untolditaly.com. I'll be upfront and say that we're looking for unique places and experiences, the untold ones, so we can inspire others to go beyond the obvious, connect with places that aren't 100% set up for tourists. So if you have personal experiences that fit the brief, do please reach out. And unfortunately, we will politely be declining business pitches in favour of personal experiences. To learn more about the places that Kristen and Jason mentioned, head on over to our show notes at untolditaly.com/269 for episode number 269. And if you want more insider tips on spending time in lovely Lucca, a place that we all love, you'll find them in the Tuscany Guide on the premium version of the Untold Italy app, including restaurant and hotel recommendations, favourite shops, day trips, and local wineries. Grazie. Thank you to all our wonderful listeners for your ongoing support of Untold Italy. I hope you enjoyed today's show. If you did, then it would be amazing if you gave us a rating or review in your favourite podcast app. Next week, we're taking a little pause for Pasqua or Easter, but we'll be back in a fortnight with a wonderful Sicilian adventure and some insight into the night train from Messina to Roma. But until then, it's ciao for now.
The Untold Italy podcast is an independent production. Podcast editing, audio production and website development by Mark Hatter, production assistance and content writing by the other Katy Clarke. Yes, there are two of us. For more information about Untold Italy, please visit untolditaly.com.